Hello, and welcome to the Hunting Illinois podcast. With me today is Curtis, Lauren, Dan, and I'm Jason. So today we're going to be talking about the Illinois Learn to Hunt program. We got a lot of updates, so we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing already this summer and all these different events that we have coming up. We're going to make sure you all are informed and know where we're going to be at because we are covering some ground this summer. So we'll go over all those different events that we're going to be a part of. And then we're also going to talk about all these updates and reminders for seasons coming up. So there's a lot of lotteries and other things that are open right now that you want to apply for so that way you can hunt this fall. So that way you can have your plans set and ready to go. You want to hit the ground running, make sure you apply for all these different lotteries and things like that. So where you guys want to start off at?
Yeah, we could just kind of start off, talking about some of these lotteries. That's really at the top of my mind these days, especially this time of year. We're in kind of the dead of summer. There's not a ton of hunting activity, but this is the time when you get to spend the time strategizing, planning, going through that part of the process. And for me, that's actually part of the process I really enjoy. I really like going through the data, finding new sites. But you got to remember there's a lot of lottery deadlines, so you don't want those to pass because then you'll get to September and the dove opener comes and, oh, crap, I don't have a dove permit. Mm-hmm. And then you're kind of starting from scratch. So just a couple really important deadlines that we'll pass along. First of all is the deer firearm lottery. So if you're interested in obtaining a firearm or muzzleloader permit for this upcoming fall deer season, the second lottery actually just closed on June 30th. So we're now approaching that third lottery, which will open up in about a week and a half. So it opens up July 11th and runs through usually the middle of August. So you still do have some time. Now, the nice thing is Illinois residents and non-residents can apply during this third lottery. Just for everyone's reference, the first lottery is residents only. The second lottery then opens up to residents and non-residents, and this third period kind of continues with that theme. Worth mentioning also is if you're unable to draw, or maybe you just don't draw the specific permit you're looking for. And now I know personally I'm a public land hunter. If I don't submit an application during that first lottery period for a piece of public land, chances are they're all going to be gone by that first lottery and definitely by the second. So there's not a ton of public hunting opportunities still available during this third lottery. So what I would recommend is look into some of the other non-state owned land hunting opportunities. So when we're talking about the firearm and muzzleloader permit, there's basically two permit types. There's a site specific permit that is valid for that specific piece of public land. And then there's a county level tag, which are historically used for private landowners. So if you own a piece of private land, you're getting a county level tag that allows you to hunt any land in that county that's not owned by DNR. But the nice thing is that also includes federal land, and we have a pretty big chunk of federal land in Illinois, the Shawnee National Forest. All of that land can be hunted during the firearm and muzzleloader season utilizing one of these county level permits. And usually there's a bunch of those county level permits left over after the first lottery, the second lottery, and oftentimes even after the third lottery. So if you're, down and out, you didn't get the piece of public land or the site specific permit you want, look into the Shawnee National Forest. We went down there for a mentor turkey hunt, and we saw deer sign everywhere. I think we all saw probably more deer on the landscape than we did actually turkeys. Yeah. We did have quite a bit of turkey activity, but the deer was certainly pretty abundant down there. So if you missed out, check out some of those county level tags. We'll drop a few links in the show notes and in the description below on firearm hunting the Shawnee, but definitely keep that in mind. And one other date that kind of goes along with that third lottery that, again, opens July 11th and closes August 16th is on October 15th. So once all of these lottery applications are closed, these remaining tags go on for sale on what's we call an OTC, or over the counter. So then you can just go to the whatever licensed vendor, whether it's Walmart, Bass Pro, anywhere that sells firearm deer tags, and you can just purchase one of those county level tags over the counter. So just kind of keep that in mind. But if you feel down and out, you didn't get the site specific permit you want, check out the Shawnee. There's a lot of opportunity and a ton of acreage and lots of deer down there. So, but moving right along to another kind of application period that, while it doesn't open yet, I think it's worth bringing up at this point. And this is the free upland game permit. And so this basically allows you to hunt upland birds as well as rabbits. So eastern cottontail. what I recommend is spending some time looking through the public lands hunting reports, looking at the site-specific regulations. Because when I first moved to Illinois, I put in a few free upland game permits. I didn't know much about the landscape. I didn't know which site had more birds than others. And I ended up drawing a piece of ground that a pheasant hasn't been harvested in over 15 years.
Yeah.
If I would have looked at the public lands hunting report and seen that, I definitely would not have picked that site to put in for a permit. So spend some time going through that free upland or those public lands hunting report, and just make sure you get in that upland application. Again, this is a free lottery, so I implore everybody to at least put in for it. And again, that opens August 1st.
Good to know. Yeah, there might be some historical sites on there that haven't been removed.
Yeah.
Birds haven't been seen there in a couple decades.
And it can be a little frustrating if you find, I drew a permit. I'm so excited. The first year I even invited a friend. I was like, hey, I can bring along a couple others. Let's go check this spot out. There wasn't any prairie grass on the site. So definitely spend some time going through those hunting area reports just to see if historically there has been birds killed there. And again, they publish those yearly. And so with some data, spending some time in Excel, you can actually create a trend for each site too, and just see, is that population going up? Is it going down? That kind of thing. So check those out. Mm-hmm. Sticking alongside of upland games, another one that's worth mentioning is the free dove permit. So again, this is another free application. The first lottery just concluded on June 30th, but the second lottery opens up July 6th and runs through July 20th. So you only have about 2 weeks to get in that second lottery. But if you're interested in hunting doves, that's coming quick. It's hard to believe it's already July, but we're not too far away from dove season, which begins September 1st. So get that application in. And one more that I'll just briefly mention, and there are a few other applications that are kind of further into August and September that we'll kind of touch on as we get closer to those. So subscribe to the podcast just to make sure you stay attuned to all those. But one other that's worth kind of mentioning now, it doesn't open up until August 15th. But I think this is another one to spend some time looking at sites, going through social media, looking what other people have posted who've hunted a particular site to see if it's one you want. But this is the public duck and goose application period. And so the reason I want to push this so early, again, you want to make sure you're getting a good spot, but you only get one shot. You're only getting one day to hunt that entire year at a specific site. So for me, I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can ahead of time to maximize that success while I'm out in the field that particular day. And a lot of that comes down to what dates are you selecting when you submit that application. So look at some historic harvest numbers. Are they killing a lot of ducks at this site in early October, or is it more in November, or is it a southern site that maybe not till December or January? And so there's a lot of different data sets that you can look at and try to figure out what's a good time frame for the specific site, and then go through that site and see, are they actually harvesting birds here, that kind of thing. So check out all those public hunting area reports. There's a wealth of data in there that we can really use as hunters to increase our odds.
Yeah, and there's other information you want to know is if you need a boat to go there.
Very good point. Yeah.
If you can get there with waders, or if you need a boat, or if a boat will be provided for you. Some sites do. Allow you to take a boat that they have there. So a lot of research you go into picking out your waterfowl spot if you're interested in doing that. Yep.
And again, because it's one of those things, you're submitting we just said for the public duck and goose, that deadline's August 15th. You're not hunting that spot for months. Mm. So who knows what the weather's going to be. There's always things out of your control, but there's a lot of resources out there that can help get some of that under your control a little bit. Mm-hmm. So.
Very good.
Yeah. Cool. And one thing, I'll kind of throw this to Curtis too, but the federal duck stamp is also now for sale. So if you're interested in hunting ducks this year, make sure you buy that. I actually personally buy at least 2 every year. I have kind of an ongoing collection where I'll just stick one on my bulletin board, because you do have to sign your name over the face of it. So to me, it devalues a little bit, and I kind of like to collect them. But I think, Curtis, you can actually buy them electronically now. Is that correct? I remember you did that.
That's the way a lot of vendors have gone. So if you do go to your normal licensed vendor and try to buy a duck stamp, odds are they're not gonna hand you a physical stamp. They're gonna do the online thing, and then the feds will mail one to you. So make sure your address on file is correct, because I had the issue pop up a couple years ago where it was not, and it was it was a bummer. But lots of different ways to get your duck stamp. I really like the old-fashioned route, going to the post office and getting a physical stamp if you can. That's while supplies last. So I understand some of you all, in populated Chicago region, I'm not sure if the post offices even have duck stamps left. I hope they don't, because I hope people are buying them off the shelves, whether you hunt birds or not. Duck stamp has, and we're calling it the duck stamp. It's the waterfowl stamp's more correct term, but people that don't even hunt birds get duck stamps regularly because this program is so effective and so good at replenishing wetlands across North America, which, other than grasslands, it's probably the most imperiled habitat type out there. And hey, they've done awesome stuff. We've got a lot of ducks on the landscape now, which means good duck hunting, and it allows us to do research and hopefully find good hunts. So we should be thankful for that. We should always buy our duck stamp and buy them as presents. Like Dan said, it's a piece, and this year is incredibly beautiful. I'm biased.
It is.
Pintail's one of my favorite ducks anyway, but wow, the artist really knocked it out of the park this year. I probably say that every year because I'm always blown away by how beautiful they are, but this year it's a really stunning stamp. So definitely get yours, buy them for presents for everybody.
And 98%, I think, of the cost for it all goes directly into conservation. So,
yep, 98%. It's hard to find anything that is
anything. Yeah.
I don't think Nikola Tesla could build an energy machine as effective as the duck stamp. So very efficient. Buy them. Good thing. Good stuff.
Very good thing. I would personally argue it's probably the greatest success story of modern conservation in this country.
It's one of the pillars. I mean, it's what was it, 1937 or 34? 37. Yeah, 37. That was right there. The 30s was, holy cow. You talk about just everything was a home run for wildlife and North American, conservation at that time. Like, we owe so much to what happened in the 30s. They knew what they were doing back then. Different breed.
Yeah. And like you said, for me, I really love the art. And what's really cool is if you're like new to this whole concept of the federal duck stamp, there's actually an artist contest where a bunch of artists, and what's really cool is you can just see the quality year over year get better and better and better. And just the amount of time that some of these artists put not only in creating the piece, but also developing the piece and the thought behind the piece. It's not just a duck sitting, on a log. Some of them are fairly simplistic like that, but I think the whole contest aspect of it just creates this really unique opportunity to support conservation and especially wetlands. And as a personal fan of Ding Darling, it means a lot to me. So,
and the art side of it's super competitive. Incredibly competitive. That's the Super Bowl for artists who draw wildlife, is getting the duck stamp. That's their Super Bowl.
And there's some funny ones too. Like they're not
they're
not all serious either. Like some are just really kind of funny to look at and flip through.
Yeah. Last year was the first year that they made the change where the actual stamp did not need to depict some sort of hunting scene. So a little bit different. But I will add that the artist, in full support of hunting, knowing the full history of the duck stamp, he did donate an original print to our friends at Delta, which it makes him one of my new favorite artists. So good guy.
That's cool.
But for real, I mean, you said Ding Darling. Do you want to say who Ding Darling was?
Oh, sure, yeah. So Ding Darling is, if I'll do an abridged version.
Yeah.
So I could talk all day about this man, but he was essentially a Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist throughout the 1920s and 30s, and he had this. I don't know if it was a unique relationship at the time, but he had a unique way of depicting man's relationship with wildlife. And throughout the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was this huge I almost call it the era of domination. Some people call it the era of extermination, where wildlife populations just plummeted. Mm-hmm. And for me, a lot of Ding Darling's work was highlighting that fact. And to the point that he actually he was appointed director of what now is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So he was the first director for that. He was instrumental in the federal duck stamp getting passed, but he was also the first artist to ever be depicted on the duck stamp. So the very first duck stamp is his personal artwork. But I just think his unique relationship with art and the outdoors and his understanding over this kind of human domination of the natural world, I think is fascinating. And you could see all of it come through any of his work. It really does paint an interesting but kind of sad picture in a lot of ways.
Mm.
But very, very influential cartoonist. And yeah, just a really stand-up guy from everything I've read about him.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like he really put conservation and natural resources at the forefront of like everything he did, which at that time was fairly rare.
Very cool. I have one last update. Is that IRAP is open right now for the archery. It started July 1st, and you got till 5 p.m. August 9th. So this is the Illinois Recreational Access Program. So they work with, the IDNR works with landowners to allow access to private land, and it's another lottery you can go and apply for. So go check that out. We'll have a link of that in the description on how you can go and apply for that lottery as well.
Have you ever hunted IRAP?
I have not yet.
How about you, Curtis?
No, have not. Heard good things, obviously, from our buddy Freddie Reyes, but have not.
Yeah, it's really a unique program. And the reason I asked that is because when I first, discovered the IRAP program, I don't want to say I was cautious, but I was a little concerned about how much information they were going to give you ahead of time. And you've probably heard just through today, I very much like information ahead of time. I like to have all the data, all the maps, everything. Mm-hmm. And my wife drew IRAP a few years ago. It was actually during the pandemic, so like 4 years ago at this point. Man, time's weird. Yeah. But I was just flabbergasted at the professionalism and the amount of information that you get up front. So essentially, if you're successful in drawing an IRAP permit, you'll get an entire packet in the mail that's got all the different maps. It tells you where you can park, when you can park, and it makes it very, very simple. So if you're new to hunting, put in for IRAP as a new hunter. They do some kind of license database analysis, and as a new hunter, you do get a higher likelihood of drawing an IRAP permit than say somebody who's bought a deer permit for 15 years. Mm-hmm. If you've only bought it for 2, you will likely rank higher in their application process. So as a new hunter, highly, highly recommend it. And it's also one of those programs that just for whatever reason, not a lot of people utilize. So submit an application. Definitely. You will not be disappointed. You basically get a piece of private land to yourself to hunt for a week. For a week or 2. Yeah. That's hard to come by in the Midwest.
Yeah, just to let you know, preferential treatment gets to the youth, and in their definition of youth is 18 or younger. And then they have to be with a hunter, a licensed hunter, 21 years or older. And then first time adult, which is defined as someone who has not archery hunted deer for the past 5 years. And then also adults can apply, and you won't have the preference, but there's plenty of sites to go around.
There's a lot of sites.
It's kind of underutilized resource right now, so they're still getting this up and running. And right now is a good time to hop on if you want to try it out. And you get periods, so you get like October 1st to the 15th, October 16th to the 31st, and then December 16th to the 31st. So those are those are pretty good periods too. You either get that really nice early season bed to feed pattern, or you get the later portion of October where you're starting to see a little bit of pre-rut stuff going on. You get that Halloween date that we always love to hunt on. That's on the 31st of the second period. And then you get the late season, but possibly second rut in December 16th and to the 31st. So, it's a great resource.
And even if you don't submit an application for it this year, I highly recommend just staying like abreast of that program. Other states have similar programs, and I only see these programs growing in terms of scope and scale. It's such I don't want to say an easy way, but a cost-effective way of increasing the amount of public land on the landscape. I mean, we all know Illinois, we're less than 2% of the total land mass is public land. It's expensive to not only acquire public land, but then to manage it, hire staff to continue to run it. But if we can leverage these existing, private landowners who are willing to open up access,
why not? It's called to private landowners as well. So,
Absolutely.
If you're a private landowner or a farmer who's having crop damage from whitetails and they want to find out a way that they can work with DNR get some benefits as well and open it up to the public, this might be a way that they can do that as well.
Yep. And one of the big benefits to the private landowner through the IRAP program is they're essentially getting a fully fledged habitat management plan developed for their specific property.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you were to pay somebody in the private sector to do that, I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars to do a full inventory, do a fully fledged management plan on your specific property. Where here you open up access for a year or two, get that management plan, get some guidance on how to best manage that property for whatever your specific goals or objectives are. It really does seem like a win-win.
Yeah. And farmers aren't evil people. I think they are interested in that.
Oh, absolutely.
They want
Yeah.
to use it. I mean, they're not just trying, they want to manage their land as best they can.
Yep.
And that includes the wildlife on it as well.
Yeah, we heard from a farmer just recently at an event that the reason he enrolled in IRAP was because he wanted kids to get off video games and do stuff outside. So how was he going to be a hypocrite if he's not hunting his ground? He's not going to keep other people from hunting it. So if he's sitting here saying that he wants people to be outside and doing stuff, well, guess what? He's putting his money where his mouth is, so to speak, and he enrolled his property in IRAP for that reason.
That's awesome.
I got kids all around me, and I want to see them out there hunting rather than sitting inside playing video games. So, hey, that's good juju for farmers too. The last I heard, he was getting 50% more bushel yield out of that field. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I think that came through.
That's awesome. And we probably should mention too, we mentioned it obviously in relation to deer archery hunting. Now there's a lot of other opportunity on IRAP. There's waterfowl hunting, there's trapping, there's fur bear hunting, there's turkey hunting,
there's fishing.
Even, some of the sites even have riverbank access. We know waterway rights are a little bit of an enigma in Illinois, but there are some properties that have river access through the IRAP program that you can either fish, kayak. There are so many opportunities outside of just deer archery that if you're an outdoors person in Illinois and you're just looking for additional opportunities. Now, I will say largely right now they are kind of scattered in the central portion to the west central portion. A lot of the sites are kind of geographically located there. But again, I think that's just the program's early inception. It kind of makes sense. They're kind of scattered pretty close to DNR headquarters. That's where all the staff is. That's probably where a lot of their primary landowner contacts are. But I imagine we're going to really start to see that map fill out across the state in subsequent years. But a lot of good opportunity, a lot of good.
Yeah, mentioning trapping, it's not a deadline, but with the heat, this is the best time of year for anybody who's a trapper out there for doing your trap maintenance. So if you have to dye your traps, you want to pick the hottest day because it dries them real quick. All the water evaporates. You don't have any rust issues. Also, if you want to make wax dirt, which is a process of just spreading out a bunch of dirt in the sun and mixing in some wax in there so to kind of weatherproof your dirt, you can only do that when it's the hottest of the hot. So right now in the summer. So I know it feels like fall and winter is a ways away, and most of what we have to do is to just sit inside and dream about cooler days ahead. But there are some outside stuff that trappers need to be doing right now, and right now is the time to do it. So be dyeing and waxing your traps. I know it's hot, but you can come in and cool down afterwards, and definitely be making your wax dirt if you're dealing with a lot of times you're dealing with thawing and melting and freezing and all these kind of issues. You can take away a lot of those variables by using wax dirt, because guess what? Right around your set repels all the water. So all around you might be mushy, sloshy, no good, but right in your set, it stays good for a lot longer. So wax dirt, highly recommend it, and you can only do it on the hottest of the hot days. You can look up YouTube videos. I know my friends at the Wisconsin Trappers Association, I think they've got some videos on their YouTube page about making wax dirt, but really helpful, and this is the best time of year to do it. Do it at the cool time, and it doesn't mix well. The wax doesn't melt. It has to be like, I don't know the exact temperature, but over 90 for the wax to melt and really get in there and fuse with the soil good.
Well, sadly, it looks like the weather's going to trend back in the 90s. So I think you got
time.
Yeah, it sucked, man. I woke up the other day with the windows. Actually, it was last night or yesterday. Yeah. And the windows, it literally felt like fall. Mm-hmm. And my monkey brain was just like, "Oh, it's deer season, man. It's deer season."
Yesterday was nice. Yeah, it was like a cruel tease, and then we're
Yeah,
in the deep into the 90s. So cool
I
down
got
when
one
you
more.
can.
I got one more update from IRAP that I want to hit too, just because it's something different compared to IRAP sites. Are you guys familiar with Lake Springfield archery deer hunting? So this is you use IRAP to apply to go hunt Lake Springfield. If you live in the surrounding counties around Springfield, you're eligible for this. So check that to make sure that you're eligible. They're also looking for these are for experienced hunters. This is not like they want people who know what they're doing here because you are hunting in city limits. So it does say experienced. But
yeah, I don't want to put out too big, but I think there also is a proficiency test alongside that hunt for basically what you just said. Again, this is a highly populated area. They don't want, a bunch of wounded deer to go running in somebody's, flower bed and that kind of thing. So I think that hunt does have a proficiency test, but definitely look into it.
Yeah. So basically it's, they want you to harvest with 3 deer within a 2-week period, and 2 antlerless deer must be taken before antlered deer. I just want to highlight this because, it's an interesting way to figure out what all they need to do to be able to allow hunters to be able to be the management. Everyone always talks about how there's all these deer out here, especially in these city parks and things like that. Why aren't they using hunters to do it? Well, this is what a program looks like that's trying to do that. So you might not be for the beginners that might be listening to us, but if you got any experienced hunters that live around Springfield, it's another opportunity to check out and help out your local park there by reducing some of that deer population that's in there, destroying some of the habitat.
Good tip. And just since you mentioned some county hunting opportunities, not to just jump around too much, but another land type that I think gets fairly overlooked in Illinois. Now, I will say it's not like there's a collated list that just highlights all these different opportunities, but very often, like you just mentioned, county districts will have some kind of hunting opportunity where they're trying to reduce a population. I know McLean County has a really big one at Cumlara Park. Allerton Park, which is owned by the university, has one. Like you just said, Lake Springfield, some of the forest preserve districts up in the collar counties of Chicago have some limited hunting opportunities, but don't overlook county information. Now, the challenge is it's not going to be on DNR's website. It's going to be hidden on that county's website. So it may take a little bit of digging, but if you're just looking for additional opportunities, especially in the archery side of things, most of these skew very archery dominant. Definitely check out some of those county park districts. Oftentimes they have some kind of limited hunting opportunity where they're, like you said, just trying to reduce that population down.
I do have to throw out that I love the management strategy of earn a buck. Obviously not everywhere, but in areas where you want to bring the deer population down, I love that strategy because it's all about opportunity. And for those folks that are wanting maybe multiple deer in their freezer, that's perfect. And for somebody else who might only be a buck hunter, guess what? It takes them out of that gene pool. They're going to go hunt somewhere else. So your odds, I feel like, are better when they throw in that added stipulation, because some are like, oh, I got to shoot a doe. I can't do that.
Yeah. I also want to say in that description that they have there on their website that some folks might be like, who needs 3 deer? But they also suggest maybe donating it to the food bank. So they have a setup there. So that way any deer that won't go eaten will be eaten. At least you can donate that to the food bank there.
Who doesn't need 3 deer? You're talking about deer.
Especially with the price of beef these days. Man, I bought a sirloin to make some fajitas last night. That sucker was like $12.99 for a little 8-ounce steak. Never again.
Dude, my family ate 4 to 5 deer a year when I was growing up. That's what we ate. That was our main protein right there. So, yeah, you got room in the freezer for it. I suggest you
and even if you don't, start canning. That's one thing my wife and I started doing last year. We did it a little bit, but last year we took a big step in canning venison. And I tell you what, it looks gross just seeing like boiled meat in a jar on your counter. But man, does it make the best stews you ever had. You can make a stew that normally you'd cook for, a couple hours. I can have that thing done in 20 minutes. And that's hard to beat, but
yeah, super convenient. Not just stews, but anything. Seasoning, make some tacos, make whatever, make it into pasta, little bolognese sauce, whatever you want. It's nice. It's a tender way to keep the meat ready to go. All you got to do is warm it up. And like you said, you don't need refrigeration, which is the big thing.
Yep. And the way you said tender, deer naturally is fairly tender, but man, when you can it, pressure can it, it's It is about as tender
Yep.
as tender could be.
It's more like meat goo at that point. That doesn't quite make it sound appetizing, but it tastes better than it sounds. It's very tender. It's like velvety. All the
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah,
turns into like this velvety smooth coating, and it's good stuff.
it is good stuff.
I even tried canned porcupine one time, and it was edible.
Ooh, huh? Quill on?
No,
Get a little toothpick.
Use those as the kebabs, skewer.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So right now we can move on to introducing our new team.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, so first of all, a huge welcome to Lauren Dean. She's now a part of the full-time Learn to Hunt crew, so we are extremely enthusiastic to have her on board. And I'll give you a few minutes just to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, Lauren, what your background is, kind of what got you interested in the outdoors, in hunting, that kind of thing.
So I grew up in Maryland. My dad was a very big deer hunter. That's pretty much all he did. But I spent a lot of time reading and then falling into streams and that kind of thing, getting dirty. So I've always been interested in, animals, nature, outdoor, cool rocks. My poor mom, when I moved out, still was finding rocks in various coat pockets and things for years. I went to Tulane University for my undergrad and got an anthropology degree. And then I went to University of Missouri and got a history master's. And then I recently completely changed paths and got a master's in wildlife conservation and management, which is how, I kind of knew about you guys from being up here. We went to hunt camp a couple years ago, my husband and I. But I worked with you guys for a waterfowl focus group. So if any of our attendees are listening, thank you again for participating in that. So yeah, it's wildlife conservation and working with you guys. It's like a very nice blend of my interest in like people and being outside and just everything a little bit different. I'm also a big fan of anything you can do with your dog. So, although I do have a hound, I don't have a gun dog at the moment, maybe one day. So yeah.
Hound counts as a gun dog. Hound is one of the first gun dogs, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's true, but I don't think he's going to give it back to me if I.
Hey, Sharon, that's
Yeah, that's more the issue. I think he will find and destroy rather than retrieve. So yeah, my husband is a big firearms enthusiast, so we both like to be outside and cook things. So, like you guys, I grew up I ate a lot of deer, like Jason, growing up. And side of beef. So going out into the real world and having to buy meat was kind of a weird thing for me. And the quality wasn't as great. And especially now with how expensive things are. Sorry if you can hear my dog's huffing at the door corner now. It's just like, what? So yeah, I like, wildlife photography. I like, being outside, looking at the birds. My husband and I did a mentored hunt. We were with Jason and we just, looked at the birds. My husband was the mosquito guy, in case anyone's wondering.
In case you remember that episode. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good. I thought it was funny. So, but yeah, so I just, like to be outside, like to look at things. I'm interested primarily, I like the idea of turkey. I like the idea of trapping, especially beaver and muskrat. In terms of like an actual hunt, deer is maybe a little bit less interesting for me, but in terms of meat, it's like, kind of the key. So
honestly, I kind of fall into that too. I find deer hunting to be extremely boring 95% of the time, but you get a lot of meat yield.
Yeah. Whereas I'm like, if I can get a big enough beaver, then a little bit. So,
I treat deer hunting as work so I can do the fun, which is duck hunting and trapping. It's like, oh, I got to do my work to get a deer, and then I can relax. And Jason's just shaking his head because
I love deer hunting so much.
Deer hunting, he just wants to go there and sit by a tree all day, crazy.
I don't know why. I just do. Yep.
Hey, whatever works for you. My husband's interested in deer hunting, so I'm like, okay, you can do that. Like, call me when you need help.
I'll help you drag. Yeah.
And I was that kid, we were those people we had an older neighborhood in the suburbs, but it was so it's not quite as close, but I was that kid, pouring down rain, holding the flashlight for my dad while he, skinned the deer in the front yard, and we had, the assembly line, going through in the kitchen with, grinding and cutting up.
Sure.
And, weighing and, folding it all and freezing it. So yeah, that's my background with hunting.
Awesome. What is it about trapping that really appeals to you? That's just something we don't hear a lot these days of people our age and our demographic getting into trapping. So I was just kind of curious what
Yeah, no, and
what
it's
like
interesting
pulled
because
you into that.
it's interesting because like in my mind, like initially I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever be into trapping, but like one day I was kind of like, I think this is. I'm not as interested necessarily right now with like more like predators. Like to me, like I just personally like that's not necessarily the direction I'd want to go in. Mostly because I want to eat what I get, and
Sure.
I guess you could eat some of the stuff, but maybe not as advised. I like when we were hunting with Jason, I was just like, I'm just happy to be here. Like, I like to look around. I like to see what's going on. I do a lot of like wildlife photography as well. So I like to sort of look for the sign and prepare and just, I like the idea that I can take my dog with me to go check my lines and just, at worst case, I get a nice day outside, in the winter. I love being outside when it's cold. So I think that's part of it. And then like you're truly using every part of the animal.
Sure.
So like I'm not interested in terms of like selling furs or things like that, but I'm interested in utilizing as much as I can. That sort of thing is more my driver. And then I
Nice.
think partly because my little inner anthropologist, it's just like such an interesting subculture that is kind of fading. So it is kind of an interesting, just sort of thing to kind of get into and talk to people and learn about. So
Sure. That's cool.
That makes sense. I didn't even put together because I knew you liked the anthropology. I knew you liked trapping, and that makes sense that those two things would go hand in hand. I know when we were at the Trapping Matters workshop, or not workshop, the Trapper Rendezvous. I met a guy who was dressed like a trapper back in the day. Like he was in a whole outfit, and we're like, "What do you do?" And he said he went to college for Old West history. And I'm like,
okay.
"Oh, that all makes sense."
Yeah,
so yeah, it makes sense that your education follows your passion, and
that's cool.
Yeah.
And I will say my grandpa is like very, like he's a super intelligent guy. He used to do work with lasers, but he's also kind of got that very much like mountain man vibe, which isn't to say, mountain man can't be intelligent. That's not what I'm going for. I'm just saying like, that's not what he did in real life. But always had a bunch of like really cool, like old firearms and just like, old snowshoes and just things like that, like really interesting dusty books and, Native American, like just kind of, Old West history type thing. So there's kind of like that connection, which I think part of the reason with hunting, again, it's kind of that connection to my dad because I lost him when I was a teenager. So it's kind of a nice, like, thing to sort of do. So,
Sure.
So yeah, so those are my, I will say I've gotten more interested in upland birds recently, doing the IDNR wing shooting clinics. Those were a lot of fun. I originally did it to get a little bit more comfortable with my shotgun, but my husband and I are in discussions for what we're going to do with that moving forward. So
that's good. That's good. Yeah, and I guess I'll just do a quick plug for the wing shooting program, just because we've been kind of talking about various events and getting ready for the season. And since you brought it up, I find the wing shooting program that's conducted by the Illinois DNR to be one of the most, arguably in my opinion, one of the most successful programs in the state. There's not a lot of states that have a state-run program focused on shooting sports and getting more proficient with firearms. And it's a little weird for it to be in Illinois, in my opinion, but it's such a unique opportunity. No matter if you've never held a shotgun before, you've never touched a firearm, there's a beginner's clinic for you. Maybe you're, someone like us who's been hunting for 10 or 15 years. Well, there's a clinic for you too called the Hunter's Wing Shooting Clinic, which is set up.
My husband literally did. Like I said, my husband's a gun guy, but we did the intro, and then 2 weeks later we did the hunter, and we did fine. Like it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And the Hunters one are they kind of adopted like the Sporting Clays model. And so it's not like Trapper Skeet where exactly where each target's coming from. The presentation you're going to get. There may be like some angle wobble occasionally, but this one is all set up to mimic real life hunting scenarios. So you may have a station that looks like pheasant. So you may be, walking up to a thrower and then both the targets go away from you. You may have one where it's like you're in a duck blind where you have crossers coming at you or incoming coming at you, or even some going straight up like woodcock, or rabbit that bounce off the ground. There's so many different presentations.
Because we were at Des Plaines, so some are like
okay.
in the woods, some are out in the field, some are like like automatic, some are the old school, like kind of you have somebody actually like sitting there doing it. So it's kind of cool to learn, learn all of that as well.
Yeah, and the nice thing is during that entire process, You're usually in a group of 2 to 4, depending on what the participation is at that specific clinic. And there's an instructor, a highly trained, I should caution, instructor that knows more about firearms than you will ever know. And I grew up, I shot, in collegiate, I shot pretty decent on the trap team. I used to shoot like 22 out of 25 was a relatively consistent number for me. After I took one wing shooting clinic and worked with Terry Musser, who's a really good instructor, I now hit about 24 out of 25. So again, it's just being able to like separate yourself. When you're holding a gun, you may think your form's perfect. Somebody standing 2 feet away just comes up, taps you on the foot, move your foot back, move this. And then the amount of education you get, as well as having a freaking good time is awesome.
Especially if like with my husband and I, you come from more of like a rifle pistol background, because like shotgun, it's like for wing shooting, it's completely different. Like
Completely.
they always say like don't aim, and it's like
Don't
what?
aim.
Like,
If you aim, you're gonna miss. Yep.
yeah, and like you can have your like it's like putting your elbow up is actually good because it kind of helps get your head in position, and keep your eyes open, and like doing the low mount to the high, like learning that with one of my instructors helped a lot. I mean, I was doing pretty well anyway, but it was, I got a lot better with it.
Sure.
With how I was doing it. So, and like I said, it is definitely kind of intimidating going in. I will say, like I was kind of nervous, and like I have some firearm experience.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still I was still a little bit nervous going into it, but everybody was extremely nice, open for questions. Nobody's going to make you feel silly. Like if you need to take a break, like that's totally fine. Like if you need to sit out around, or the first day, the intro day we did was very hot. So I ended up sitting out around because I got migraine. So I was like, I don't want to, push too hard. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And even just going over some of the basic, like different, pieces of like the shotgun shell, like with Nancy, it's like stuff, like I know, but it was just like, I could feel myself kind of like absorbing it all. So the way it was explained was really nice.
That's cool. But yeah, definitely check those out. And again, I'm a big fan of the hunters wing shooting clinics, just because it really does mimic, real life hunting scenarios, and trains you on what to look for. Cause that's one thing. And you really hit the nail on the head there, Lauren, when you were talking about it. But shotgun shooting is so much about getting that shotgun to become an extension of your body.
Yeah, it's
like
much more dynamic.
It is. We're not aiming. We're literally
you're not ambushing. You're not waiting.
Right.
Like, you're moving with it. Like,
yep.
It's an athletic thing. It's more like a sport, whereas like rifle shooting is all about trying to do the exact same thing every time for precision. And shotgun shooting is about being completely adaptable and being able to change in a moment's notice. And that's why, like you said, Dan, I really like the sporting plays type, because it is nice to get that repetition of pull, boom, pull, boom, pull, boom. But when you have no idea where it's coming from, and you have to adopt all these different angles, that is really getting you ready for hunting, because that to me is half the battle, is getting that comfort, getting the gun to your shoulder, being comfortable, and being in a good position to make the shot is literally half the battle. Because I promise you, if you think back to your misses out there, you probably missed before you even pulled the trigger. You weren't comfortable. Something went wrong. So developing that comfort is going to make you a much better shot.
Well,
and like we said, go ahead, Lauren.
Even just from like the first day for the intro, like from the beginning to the end was a lot more comfortable. And by the second day, like from the first session to like the second one, I got a lot better and a lot more comfortable. Like a big thing for me is I wasn't thinking about my gun. I mean, not like in a not safe way, you know what I mean? But I wasn't as much like, okay, like have I done this correctly? Is it the safety option? You know what I mean? Like it was much more focused on like what I'm doing rather than like, oh God, I've got, it's going to go boom and be loud and,
Sure.
When you first step up there, even if you shot a lot, you feel kind of like Will Ferrell, right? We're like, what do I do with my hands? Everything feels weird. You don't know what to do. And then, after you shoot a while, you stop thinking about all that, which is exactly what you have to do, and just
which is what they say. Yeah, there's just like stop thinking about it, just do it, just go. Which is, I will say, I did have instructors sometimes, Nancy especially. She would be like, no, you're not calling it this time. She's like, I'm just gonna let it go.
Oh, let the bird just fly. Yeah.
Which was kind of helpful sometimes, because it's like, okay, you just have to, or
it gets you out of your own head. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you have to like get up. You're not thinking about like, okay, where am I going? So it was. I really recommend it. Like I said, I was really nervous kind of going into it just because it was something different. And And I feel like we need, especially more women in the hunters one. Besides the instructors, I was the only one at the one I went to. So yeah.
Yeah, and so if you're interested, just literally the easiest way to find the schedule is just Google or whatever search you use, Illinois DNR wing shooting clinics, and you'll find an entire list. They host them all across the state, all across the year. So just check out that calendar and find one that works for you. But back to the hunters wing shooting clinic and how it's designed to like mimic these real life hunting scenarios. I personally, when I first attended one, I thought it was the coolest thing ever, that we've basically created our own thing for archery. And so I'll kind of turn it over to you, Curtis, to tell us a little bit about our archery, what we call a 3D simulation shoot. But in essence, we're trying to accomplish the same thing, set up realistic hunting scenarios and let people utilize their archery equipment. So we've got a few of those schedules, but Curtis, if you want to kind of give us a quick rundown on those.
Yeah, that's perfect segue because we talked about rifle shooting that requires accuracy and precision. We talked about shotgun shooting that requires adaptability and being able to change in a moment's notice. And then archery incorporates all those things, I would say. And it's, to me, and I'm biased because I do love archery, but to me, archery is like the purest form of both of those things where you have to do repetition, you have to be adaptable, you have to do all those things. And like Dan said, we tried to wrap all of these into a type of workshop that we call our 3D hunting simulation shoots. And so what makes these a little bit different than a normal 3D shoot is we're using real life animal 3D targets. We're putting them out in woods and fields where deer would be, and we're putting down a shooting pad and we're keeping the yardage unknown to the archers. So we're going to set these out in a course, much like think about a golf course, right? You're going from hole 1, 2, 3. We've got all these lined up. We're going to get to a shooting pad. You don't know the yardage. So the first thing you have to do is estimate that yardage and try to get a good shot. Now, the second thing that sets this apart from normal 3D targets is the way we score it. So we have a bullseye right in the center of the double lungs. That's your bullseye. You'll be able to see that. We score it by the distance from that. The part where we separate from other archery tournaments is once you get a certain distance away, those points begin to be negative. So that will simulate wounded game. So if you do hit the target, but you hit outside of the scoring area, that will be negative score. So this means that some archers will get to a spot, evaluate the shot, and they may choose not to take the shot. And that might be the best option for them because they don't want to get negative score. So we try to incorporate all these different things. We try to incorporate some different shot angles. Maybe a shot would have to be done sitting or kneeling. Most of them are going to be standing. But we try to simulate as much as possible all the different variables that somebody could encounter when out hunting. Even ticks. There's ticks out there. You're going to encounter those. So make sure when you sign up for the 3D archery, you use your tick precaution. All the real things are out there. And just like we were talking about with the shotgun shooting, this is going to help you be a better hunter. Because it is one thing to sit there and fire arrows all day long and do that. Very good thing. But it is completely a different thing to be out in the woods wearing hunting clothing and now having to deal with trees and having to deal with obstructions and not knowing.
And only getting one shot at the target. You literally get one chance at each target.
You have to make it count, and you don't know the yardage. So when you're at home, you may, at 25 yards, I can hit a thumbtack 9 out of 10 times. Okay, that's great. What yardage is that if I don't tell you? Can you still do it? So it adds all these different things into it, and we think it really makes a good way to give you some meaningful practice before the season. And hopefully that's going to result in more deer in the back of your truck this fall. So we're still getting some of these planned, but we do have a couple of them on the books that we'll go ahead and mention. We've got these set up for August. So on August 8th, this is a Thursday, we're going to be afternoon and evening time. We're going to be doing one of these 3D shoots right at the ECIA, the East Central Archers in Urbana. So right in town, they have an awesome location. This is going to be really fun. You're not going to want to miss that one. And then the following week, August 15th, which is also a Thursday, we're going to be at Pere Marquette doing the same thing. So for all the folks in the St. Louis area, I know you love Pere Marquette. You're there all the time. It's a busy park. Well, we're going to be setting up a temporary 3D archery course and going to be doing one of these on August 15th. So definitely look for those, sign up for those. And we're hoping to get a couple more of them on the schedule too. So keep an eye out for those. But we at least have two to look forward to. And I'm sure we'll get another one or two out there as well.
Yeah, several more to come, I would imagine. And we probably should emphasize just a little bit too, that the way we kind of set this up is we also have a practice range. So you're not just coming and getting to shoot at your 10 or 12 targets. There is going to be a practice range so you can get warmed up, make sure your equipment's all good, shoot at a static target from a known distance for, however long you want until you feel like you're ready to go shoot the course and submit your score. So we find them to be a lot of fun. And I also do want to emphasize they're not just deer targets. So we'll have some rabbit targets. So you get a really nice small targets. We'll have some turkey targets. We'll have plenty of deer as well. Mm-hmm. And there may be a few surprise targets hidden. That's one of our bread and butters of this event is we do hide a couple bonus targets. And if you happen to find them, you can shoot at them and add to your score. But they're a lot of fun.
Great. Curtis, you want to look at any of or you might as well go to the rest of our calendar. We have other events kind of coming up.
Yeah, we do have one kind of new event coming up. That's one of our first women's only events. So we're trying a women's try archery and wild game tasting event at the East Central Archers there in Urbana. That one's going to be on July 13th. So that's coming up. We've still got some spots open for that, but it is starting to fill up. So definitely sign up right away if archery is something you've always wanted to try. We've mentioned the location out here that ECIA has in Urbana. It is awesome. It really is. It's completely wooded. Like it is shaded. Even when it's 95 degrees, you go there and it's like 80 and it feels like you're in the air conditioner outside, which is just amazing. Beautiful place to shoot bows. And if it is something that interests you, well, you can look into joining the East Central Archers, and then that course is open to you almost all the time. So you have a place to go and shoot, an awesome place to go and shoot whenever you want. There's no excuse not to be Robin Hood or Katniss Everdeen at that point, right? So, but July 13th, look for that event, women's only. It's going to be try archery and try some wild game. So you get best of both worlds, fling some arrows, and then try a little bit of the fruits from the labor too. So that'll be fun. Other than that, we're also excited. We're going to be at Deer and Beer again this year, and this was a lot of fun last year. We're going to be back this year. That's August 23rd through the 25th. So be looking out for that. That's at the McLean County Fairgrounds. So there's a ton of information posted about that. It's a lot of fun. You can get your antlers scored. If you've got some deer that you've been wanting to get scored, you can come and just tour around all the different vendors. And it's a big building full of hunters and people who like hunting. So what's not to love, right?
And we were actually talking to our buddy Cole, who is the owner of Hunter's Haven, which is a little archery hunting shop here in Champaign. He's kind of the one that puts on this event. And it sounds like there's going to be quite a big growth from last year to this year. So it sounds like there's going to be some celebrity hunters. I won't say any names just in case they don't show up, but it does sound like he's got quite a few cool things in the works. So definitely check out that event. We will be there hosting a booth, as well as I think we're scheduled to give 2 or 3 seminars. We'll kind of talk about those exact dates and times when we get the calendar from Cole, but we will be giving a few seminars there. So definitely stop by.
Yeah, definitely put it on your calendar. Fun for the whole family. I mean, they got all kinds of stuff to do. They got games where you're like, shooting balls with Toei bows and arrows that are being blown up in the air. So you get a little moving target action and all kinds of fun stuff to do. So the kids love it. The adults love it. Fun for everybody. So check.
Yeah, I will say, but before you move on, Curtis, if you're a new hunter and looking to meet people, great opportunity, or B, score some really good deals on nice hunting equipment, I was able to purchase 3 handmade duck calls last year from a maker who came up from Kentucky. He sold them all at 80% off because at the end of the show, I don't want to take this stuff back with me.
Yeah.
We saw one of those electric bikes that normally go for like 4,000 or 5,000. They were selling it for like $800
Or best offer.
offer.
That
So
was crazy to see.
if you're just looking for gear, equipment, meeting people,
Yep.
check it out.
Go the first day, see what they got there, and then go the last day and see if unless you want something right away, grab it at a full price. If you got time to wait and it's something you're thinking about, go back the next day and see if it's still there on discount. You never know.
Yep. Yeah. Another thing, though, I want to mention, another fun thing that we've been doing for multiple years now. This is the 6th annual Outdoor Education Day up at the Northern Illinois Conservation Grounds in Antioch on July 20th. So we're going to be doing wild game cooking. Basically, on these outdoor education days, they have all kinds of outdoor stations set up, and people get to move around and do all these different kinds of fun stuff. We're going to be up there cooking some wild game, and people will come up and get to watch all the things we're doing and get to try a bite or two. And we're just one of, I don't know, like a dozen different stations there. I don't know what all they have, but it's a ton of fun stuff. And that day's a super fun day. We look forward to it each year. And this year it's going to be July 20th. There are still some tickets available for that, but I know they're going fast, so you want to scoop them up right away.
And anyone of any age can come to that event. That's probably one of my favorite of these kind of family outdoor days we do. The venue's cool. All the groups that come are cool. And like you said, Curtis, I'm not sure exactly who all solidified in coming yet this year. But last year they had axe throwing, they had fly fishing, they had normal fishing, they had archery. I mean, literally any outdoor activity, it was pretty much represented there.
Yeah, it's such a diversity. Really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the last thing that I'll mention that's solidified right now is, of course, Hunt Camp. We've talked about it before, but the ticket sales are live now. So we will put that link in the show notes. But Hunt Camp, we're going to be back at Deacon's Restaurant and Bar at the Golf Farm again. So this is the first time we're ever at a location 2 years in a row. So we do know a little bit more what to expect. We're also doing it earlier in the day this year. So that's going to give us a lot more options with activities to do and give people a lot more freedom with driving up and driving back the same day, which we found out quite a few people do. So earlier in the day, noon to 5, Hunt Camp on September 28th in Wakanda, Illinois. That's our biggest event of the year. And, you know, there's no sense ignoring the elephant in the room. It's the mentored hunts. That's why everybody comes, that is where we give out all of our mentored hunts for all year. You know, that's kind of the bottleneck of any learn to hunt program is we might be able to teach hundreds of people how to blow a duck call, but then when we want to take people duck hunting, we can only bring 2 or 3 of those with us on a given day. So knowing that that's our bottleneck, Hunt Camp is our way to equitably allocate all of our hunting opportunities, as well as leverage opportunities with partners and try to maximize the amount of hunts that we can find out there for adults. So we're hoping to have a whole bunch of them. We're hoping to have over 50 hunts, similar experiences this year. And this is really the driving force why everybody comes to Hunt Camp. It's not the only reason. We've got a whole bunch of fun stuff going on. Educational stations set up, including a new one I'm really excited about this year, which is going to explore what happens after the shot when you're archery hunting. And so everybody who's interested in archery hunting should definitely stop by this station because there's a lot that goes into that. This is a different thing. It's different than when you shoot a bird and it just falls and then you're hoping that your dog finds it and gives it back to you. It's completely different, but that's just one of our stations. We've got waterfowl ID, map reading, all this educational stuff you can do. We're also going to have fun games you can play. And then, of course, food, courtesy of the Illinois Conservation Foundation. All that for the low early bird ticket price of $10. You might be saying, how do you do all that for $10? We don't. Most of it gets donated, but the tickets are $10. So you want to scoop those up now because they're for sale now. And the sooner we know how many people are coming, the more easily we can get more and better hunts for you all. So I want to encourage you all to get your tickets now. don't procrastinate with this one, because it's gonna help us to knock it out of the park.
And if you are a long-term hunter and you're listening, I highly recommend at least giving it some headspace and giving it some thought. If you're willing to donate a mentored hunting opportunity to Hunt Camp, I have personally found it has honestly changed the way I view hunting. Just taking new people out, seeing not so much just the reaction and how they take in the information, but how they view things. Like we took a couple guys, I think it was last year, out of Middle Fork, and some of them, I mean, the way they described these pieces of public land, you would think they're talking about Yosemite or Yellowstone, just the beauty of this landscape. And for us, it seems so mundane. I've seen these trees a million times. It's just woods. Mm-hmm. But to some people, that's their first experience ever getting out in what I consider the great outdoors. So if you have some free time, if you have a willingness to educate and to teach the future generation of hunters, please reach out. We're always looking for more opportunity, even if it's just a squirrel hunt. I know not everybody wants to give away their deer hunting spots or their deer hunting time, but even just a squirrel hunt. There are people out there who we've had them. They'll drive 4 hours to come to a mentored squirrel hunt because that's the opportunity that's available to them and that's of interest to them. So please give that some serious thought, and feel free to reach out to any of us, and we'd be happy to kind of talk you through that process, what it looks like, what it feels like to mentor somebody, what can you expect, all those different things. But
we should also mention not limited to just hunts. Maybe you've got a pond full of bass, and you say, hey, I'll let a couple people come out here and fish with me for a day. That's awesome. Anything that gets people outside and doing something cool. Last year, we had a couple experiences with biologists where people could go fish shocking, right? And shock up some fish and net them and do some science stuff. I mean, that's cool stuff. But anything that gets people out.
In the woods, which would be like with a biologist, which would be fascinating,
anything. Too. Or maybe a wildlife photographer. That we've had those in the past. Anything that's outside, we're all for it.
Yeah,
awesome,
very good. Alrighty. Well, with that, you said you want to do trivia again, right?
If you've got a question, kind of hitching and burning,
sure. So we did do trivia night. We were at we didn't even talk. We'll talk about some other time, but we went to the bow program where it was becoming an outdoor woman, and Curtis and I got to host trivia night. So now we have this giant trivia bank. So I can either to talk about bow though. They have a fall event coming up. I know they do not struggle to find people to fill the spots.
They don't,
So if you're interested in looking at bow, please look them up. It's up there with the wing shooting clinic when it comes to this top tier things that the DNR is doing currently.
It may be full already. I don't know, but
I don't know if it's open or not yet.
It hasn't opened yet because their Facebook page, they're waiting. Like I've noticed, people are like, "Is it open yet?" Like people are like ready.
These are like Taylor Swift tickets. I mean, they are in line waiting to hit the submit button when it comes to this. So heads up on that. So it's this great program. You get to do all these different events. It's like a quick little summer camp for women to go out and try all these different things. So Curtis and I got to go up there, and we hosted an archery table and also a wild game cooking and prep table. So that was really fun. We also did some trivia. So one of my favorite ones, Curtis came up with some of these questions here. One was, what is the fastest flying animal in the world in direct flight? So not using gravity. So it's direct flight, just flapping its wings. What's the fastest flying animal?
And this is a good one because this changed since I graduated college. So,
cool.
Then I'm probably wrong in what I'm thinking.
The race is still on. So they're still tracking animals. They're still tracking animals. So anytime they measure the flight of an animal, it could outpace this particular animal. So it's really that animal itself is the fastest flying animal. It might not even be this. It was just an outlier, but that little guy was cooking.
Yeah, will you repeat the question one more time just for everybody?
Yep. What is the fastest flying animal in the world in direct flight? So not gravity assisted or stooping.
Yeah, so the one hint we say is it's not peregrine falcon, which is the fastest animal in the world. That's only when you account for the additive gravity factor in the stoop. So it's not.
So if you think you know this, send us an email.
Yeah.
And we'll revisit this topic on the next one. But we're going to continue doing this where at the end of each episode, just a little quick trivia question. Answer it in the next time. We think it'll be kind of a fun way just to share some cool wildlife facts.
Yeah. Everybody loves trivia.
Oh, yeah. Can never have too much trivia.
You got a guess, Lauren?
My guess would have been peregrine falcon. So
Same.
because I feel like we all are similar enough in age that
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so when I was in should I say what it was when I was in college, or does that give it away?
No, go for it. What was it? Well, we can talk about it next time if you want.
Yeah, let's save it for the next time. Yeah.
All right, we'll find out what Curtis's old answer was and what the new answer is now.
I like it.
All right. Well, with that, guys, I think that's everything.
I think so.
Yeah. Let us know. This was a little all over the place, but it was just updates. We had a lot of updates going on. Let us know if this is something that you enjoyed listening to or if you hated this, and we'll just tell you to look at the newsletter if you don't like us doing it this way. But hopefully we said something that you're interested in.
Yeah. And we probably should mention just one more thing. As the weeks progress, our workshop schedule, our Learn to Hunt Deer, Learn to Hunt Pheasant, Learn to Hunt Waterfowl, you're going to start seeing all those events get added. We're in the planning process now, getting venues, solidified dates, partners, the whole shebang. So that schedule will be coming here shortly. So just stay abreast on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, however you follow us, you'll see it.
Sounds good.